I am Daniel J. Isengard, and I will be reading an excerpt from the autobiography of Daniel J. Isengard, written by Philip Notedame. This is from the 4th chapter, Philip Notedame before he came to New York. And then there was the time when the King of the Belgians and his wife, Her Majesty Queen Fabiola, came to Geneva. Philip Notedame was very interested, and his mother was evidently very excited. As he always says about royalty, kings and queens are never regal, but everybody around them is always trying to be, which is always very amusing. In any case, there was great excitement at 26 Chemin du Petit Saconnet in the days leading up to the royal visit. Then the day finally arrived, and everybody at the Belgian embassy was at attention. Then someone from protocol called and said, "His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen are delayed, and will you please excuse the royal couple? They will come tomorrow, for sure." The next day, at the same hour, everybody was at attention again, and once again the phone rang, and this time it was the chief of protocol, and he asked to speak to Ambassador Notedame. He said, "Your Excellency, the royals have been delayed again and should arrive tomorrow. Apologies." This happened several days in a row, and every time everything that pleased His and Her Majesty's fancy, a luncheon of smoked sable and other things, went bad, and new orders had to be placed. So much waiting and wasting, Philip Notedame says, created a sentiment of dread rather than eager anticipation. At any moment's notice, the King and the Queen could appear, and one had to be ready, and even the chairs had to be ready, and of course the maids' white aprons had to be bleached and starched and bleached and starched again every day. He remembers hearing the 3 Portuguese maids with the dark circles under their eyes saying, "Oh, meu Deus," and "Oh, meu coração." Otherwise, he says, they really none of them had much else to say. Finally, the King and the Queen turned up, and nobody was really at attention at this time, from exhaustion. Everyone was presented, and everybody sat down. Everybody sat down, and everybody began to eat. The Belgian royal couple had no children, which everyone knew was a source of much sadness in the marriage. Queen Fabiola was of Spanish aristocracy and reminded one most naturally of paintings by Goya. She had a certain mad quality that perhaps had to do with her elaborate hairdo and was curiously in accord with her long birth name, Fabiola Fernanda Maria de las Victorias Antonia Adelaida de Mora y Aragon. Of course, the Belgians could never remember such a long name, so when she became queen, she was simply always Fabiola. She always traveled with a spinsterish Spanish governess, and both her and the governess gave off the impression of carrying mothballs in their matching purses. The king was entirely a different type. He was quiet, serious, and self-effacing. He had the square shoulders and the unseeing fixed eyes of a Belgian monarch. He was very gentle. The conversation around the table was not very lively. Nobody had all that much to say, besides that it was an honor and a pleasure to meet. The Queen complained a little about the stormy weather, and also that traveling in the air had its elements of unpleasantness. Just at the end of the luncheon, the King asked Philip Notedame's mother if she had any of the comic supplements of the Swiss dailies. Madame Notedame said, "Why, certainly, with pleasure, Your Majesty," and she dispatched Philip Notedame to fetch copies for the King. Philip Notedame came back with several comic supplements, and the King was very pleased indeed. Then everybody stood up. Everybody stood up, and the King and Queen said, "À bientôt, we will meet soon," and they went back to Belgium.